Yes, allow me to explain to you why Peter Dutton will be our next Prime Minister and the Albanese government is hurtling towards disaster. Allow me also to explain why Chris Bowen is the man who will bring Albo and his team of undergraduate socialists crashing down. Firstly, let's kick off with a bit of positivity from our dear old friend Boris Johnson.
First of all, massive congratulations to Steve Tuckwell on being the new Conservative MP for Uxbridge and South Ruislip. Steve, you're going to be a fantastic MP, and your victory shows that Conservatives can win in London and across the whole country.
A Conservative victory at the Uxbridge by-election was always highly unlikely. This is the seat Boris Johnson vacated after having been forced to resign from Parliament. Note to Scott Morrison, you should take a leaf out of Boris's book and do the same thing. Actually, even better, Mr Morrison, you could attempt to undo the egregious damage you, Malcolm Turnbull and Julie Bishop inflicted upon the Liberal Party and Conservatives in this country by not only resigning, but by nominating as your replacement the one person who could romp it in as a candidate in your electorate, Tony Abbott. But I digress. The reason, as I shall explain later in the show, and as we discussed with Esther, that both Labour and the Tories in the UK agree was the cause of the unexpected Conservative victory in Uxbridge and Ruislip was something with the hideous acronym of ULEZ. Ugly acronyms are, of course, the hallmark of brutalist bureaucracies. Think of UNRWA or ICAC or DFAT. ULEZ stands for the Ultra Low Emissions Zone, i.e. part of London's net zero plans. This zone had been recently extended to include people in the outer London Uxbridge area. And whoopity-doo-dah! What do you think happens every time all the blowhards who bang on about reducing emissions to save the planet suddenly realise it will actually impact on their own lives? My goodness. According to Ross Clark in the UK Telegraph, quote, everywhere motorists stand to be forced off the roads by the forced switch to electric cars and traffic limiting schemes. The drivers' revolt is spreading beyond ULEZ, says Ross, and it could doom Labour. As cost of living pressure and soaring energy prices mean people suddenly can't take it anymore, they will inevitably turn against whoever they deem to be responsible for inflicting this pain upon their lives. In the Uxbridge case, they voted Conservative, even though, in one of the great ironies, it was Boris Johnson himself who was one of the main instigators of net zero and of lowering emissions. But it wasn't Boris and the Tories who suffered the electoral backlash. The ire was directed at the man responsible for implementing those measures, who wasn't even on the ballot, London Mayor Sadiq Khan, Labour. Up until now, the accepted wisdom has been that Keir Starmer and Labour are going to win the next UK election, but that is no longer a given. That's what one simple by-election can do. It can shift the whole public expectation. We saw that, too, with Peter Dutton's recent Fadden victory. Equally, right across Europe, as Mark Higgie and James Allen in The Spectator Australia and Greg Sheridan in The Oz have pointed out, Conservatives are winning elections by opposing the insanity of intransigent climate policies and woke ideology, the key word being opposing. Why? Because people may approve of the theory of net zero up until they see what it means in practice. In the UK this morning, Michael Gove has dismissed net zero as a religious crusade. As Greg Sheridan says, don't label these new European parties far right. They are the new conservatism. And he quotes Roger Scruton. The real reason people are conservative is because they are attached to the things they love.